We have some major news out of the Federal Reserve. For the second time in a row, the Federal Reserve has announced a quarter-point cut in interest rates, which is another tick in the right direction of lower interest rates for you and I when it comes to things and purchases like cars and car loans, homes and mortgages, and just decreasing the cost of borrowing money. Now, this cut doesn't necessarily come as a surprise given the fact that the job market has no doubt softened. In recent days, Amazon announced plans to cut 14,000 corporate jobs. UPS, Nestle, Intel, Microsoft, Procter & Gamble are all just a handful of companies that are laying off thousands of workers. And this has no doubt drawn up enough concern to justify a rate cut. However, there were some other factors that were possibly working against a rate cut, which means that despite the fact that this rate cut was likely, it certainly wasn't guaranteed. Inflation is still higher than what the Fed would like, and it is still climbing. And the government shutdown, which has just hit its fourth week, isn't helping, making it hard for the public and the government to gather and share data needed for making and communicating a decision as important as a rate cut. However, despite all of this, a rate cut did in fact happen, and it was a quarter-of-a-point cut. But like always, what does this mean for you and I? Well, to give you some historical context, here is a graph showing the federal funds rate since the year 2000, with rates falling and dropping in the lead-up and wake of the dot-com bubble, the lead-up and wake of the Great Recession, and of course, pre- and post-COVID. And as far as present day, you can see that we have a long way to go before we are at low-level rates, at least historically speaking. And so, as much as it is a good thing that rates have been cut again, definitely don't expect a day and night difference whenever it comes to the cost of borrowing money. For example, credit cards, which for the most part have a short-term variable rate, are directly impacted by rate cuts from the Fed. So while you should see some decline in credit card interest rates, you aren't going to see a life-changing difference, and depending on your current rate, the difference may not be noticeable at all. Car loans, on the other hand, will be impacted with this rate cut. However, if you are somebody who already has a car loan, those are fixed rates, and as a result, you won't see any difference at all unless you refinance. But if you are someone who is looking to buy a car, then you should see lower interest rates today than you did, say, a couple of weeks ago. This graph here shows the most up-to-date averages for interest rates, but even this data is slightly outdated, showing the average rates from Q2 of 2025 according to Experian. And given the fact that we are just now heading into the end of October, we don't have the final numbers and averages for Q3, or of course Q4 either, but we can of course expect for interest rates to be lower today than they were in Q2, but it's not going to be a huge night and day difference whenever it comes to either interest rates or the general affordability of a car. However, the rate cut certainly won't hurt, and it will improve the affordability crisis that we're experiencing in the car market as a whole. And the timing of this is quite nice because as we head into the holiday season, we are officially in the final 2 months of the year, which make it some of the best times to buy a car. Not only are automakers offering some pretty aggressive low APR deals on new models, but dealerships are also offering more and more incentives as we approach the end of the year, potentially offsetting some of the higher cost of interest rates despite these interest rate cuts. And so while rate cuts aren't going to move the dial a ton whenever it comes to affordability, rate cuts paired with end-of-year savings, it could definitely be argued that the next 2 months could be some of the best times to buy a car that we have seen in the last few years. Now, we only have one more Fed meeting for the rest of 2025, and this will be held on December 9th and 10th. So in about 6 weeks, we could potentially see another rate cut. And then once we head into 2026, the first Fed meeting will be held at the end of January. Now, as I've said in past videos before, the impact of rate cuts doesn't really come with 1 or even 2, even 3 rate cuts. Instead, it comes over a period of extended time where rate cuts happen consistently Fed meeting after Fed meeting. So this is our second rate cut of 2025. It's also 2 rate cuts in a row. And if things continue as they have been, we can expect to see another one in December and possibly another one in January, which will no doubt impact the affordability of everything. Overall, this is excellent news, and while there are no doubt some dark spots in our economic outlook, including climbing consumer debt, the job market, and of course the government shutdown, this rate cut is for sure a silver lining. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.